On this episode of Locked On Angels, the Angels have been at 500 9 times this season, 1 game under 500 11 times this season, and 2 games under 500 9 times this season. The Angels have lost 5 straight games when trying to get over 500. And last night, they made it 6 straight losses when trying to get over 500. So we're going to tell you what happened, share our takeaways, and it's guaranteed to drive Locked On Everydayer Eric up the wall. It's time to get locked on with Mike and John, and this is Locked On Angels.
You are Locked On Angels, your daily Los Angeles Angels podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Who's Eric? Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. You can find us anywhere you get your podcasts, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and SiriusXM by searching Locked On Angels. And if you'd like to give back to the Super Halo Bros for all the Super Halo content, here's some things that you can do. Leave us a rate and a review on Apple Podcasts. Thank you to those that have done that recently. Appreciate that. 5 stars. Yay! And if you're watching on YouTube, hit that thumbs up button. And if you're not subscribed already, please subscribe and become a Locked On Everydayer. And whether you're watching or listening, come over to YouTube, leave a comment. One of the best ways to get in touch with us and be a part of the conversation. And this episode of Locked On Angels is brought to you by Gametime. You can download the Gametime app, create an account, and use our promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase.
Sorry, I'm just looking up here at the top of my screen. Is that a 500 written at the top there? Is that what, I can't break through. I can't get through, Mike.
It's the glass ceiling.
Oh, my goodness. Hey, thanks for being here for this edition of Locked On Angels, where it's your team every day. You've got the Frisch Brothers here with you, a.k.a. the Super Halo Bros. My name is John, and that's my brother, Mike.
That was depressed John. I haven't seen that in a while. My name is Mike, and that's my brother, John.
What do you mean depressed, John?
You were just like, hey everybody.
No, it's every time I try to be funny at the beginning, I always screw up the way I say the things that I'm supposed to say at the beginning. So, hey,
right.
we're here 5 days. We're here 5 days a week talking Angels baseball with you Monday through Friday, every single weekday. On today's show, when will Trout play in the outfield? Will we ever see him in the Trout field? We don't know. What's behind Jo Adell's recent hot stretch? We're going to get into that conversation. First, we got to talk about last night's loss, 8-3. The Angels cannot break 500. They are 1 game below it once again, and started out great, didn't it, Mike?
Yeah, it was a fun game. It felt like the Angels had all the momentum, and heading into this game, they had shut out the Braves the previous night. And in fact, they had 14 straight scoreless innings in this game included, because Yusei Kikuchi was on the mound, and he pitched really well. That was until about halfway through the 6th inning. He went 5 2/3, 6 hits, gave up 2 runs. We'll talk about those 2 runs in just a moment. And 2 walks and 7 Ks on 100 pitches. John, he was cruising through this game. Had a bit of traffic, but he was able to navigate that well. And he also had 9 batters where he started 0-2 to each of those batters. And so he was really pitching well. He was minimizing damage. He wasn't walking a lot of guys. In fact, in June, he had a 1.98 walk rate. So he was really on fire in June. And we saw that again in this start last night. But then the 6th inning happened, and he got the first 2 batters out. And stop me if you've heard this before, but this seems to be the Achilles heel for the Angels. They can get the first 2 guys out, but then something happens where they just can't get another guy out. Then Profar singled, and after a mound visit, I thought Ray Montgomery would take Kikuchi out at that point, but they let him stay in the game. He faced the next batter and gave up a single. And so that's when Montgomery comes back out and takes Kikuchi out of the game, which leads us to our second takeaway, right, John?
Yeah, Ryan Zeferjahn does not like throwing his best pitch. Before I pile on Zeferjahn here, I just want to say about Kikuchi and that second hit, that was the one that Christian Moore got hurt on, and we'll talk about that in a second. So there was a long delay there, and so you kind of feel like Montgomery maybe thought it was the right time to get Kikuchi. Unfortunately, it proved to be the wrong decision because Zeferjahn entered for Kikuchi in the bottom of the 6th, 2 on, 2 out, gives up a 3-run home run to Sean Murphy, the 7th home run he's given up this season. It was an 89-mile-an-hour cutter, the first pitch of the at-bat, right in the sweet spot of Sean Murphy's swing. Now, Murphy was 0 for 2 against Kikuchi, had 2 strikeouts, and Kikuchi threw him the fastball high in the zone. In fact, in Murphy's last at-bat against Kikuchi, he threw 3 fastballs, Mike, and he got Murphy to swing at all of them. So Zeferjahn comes in and throws 89. There you go. 89. Here it comes. Try to get it. Try to get it. Oh,
right down the middle, right in his swing path. It was a Matt Theis B button swing, John, and he crushed it. First pitch, crushed the ball. First time he saw a pitch in that quadrant of the zone all night long. I went back and looked at the previous at bats against Kikuchi. Everything was out of the zone, and anything in the zone was a fastball, high and tight, and in. So when Zeferjahn came in, maybe he just missed his spot, but he was not throwing where they were throwing to Murphy in his previous at-bats.
I don't care if he missed his spot. He's throwing in his 89-mile-an-hour cutter. Guys, I don't know if it's Barry. I don't know if it's Zeferjahn. Darno calling the pitches. Sometimes he'll hop it. Guys, Zeferjahn throws. He can touch 100 miles an hour.
Yeah.
What are we doing?
Yeah.
Like, this is a high-leverage relief guy that you've put in this role to come in and get one more out against a guy who just struck out on 3 straight fastballs. So what are we changing the game plan for?
Yeah.
Why are we not having him throw 100 miles an hour, 98, 97? I don't care what it is. It's still upper 90s. And so they keep doing this, Mike. I've said it. I tweeted this, and I'm going to say it again. I said it 8,000 times on the show. Stop throwing the stupid cutter as your primary pitch. Make it your fastball. And if you want to fool somebody, get them to think you're going to throw 100 miles an hour and then throw 89 in there. That's what you do with it. Don't give them 89 right off the bat. Don't give them a John Frisch throw. Don't give them a Mike Frisch throw. Throw your 100-mile-an-hour fastball. I'm done.
That was Super Halo Dad right there. Your dad voice came. I told you 8,000 times, right? Like, and that's what it feels like. It feels like with this team. Now I know that Ray Montgomery is taking some heat from Angel fans. Like, hey, what are you taking Kikuchi out there for? Here's my thought on that whole decision. Kikuchi walks a guy, and then they have a mound visit, and then they keep him in. So he did kind of pull a Ron Washington there. Hey, I'm going to let you keep going, man. And he was getting near 100 pitches. And so you knew that this was going to be his last inning. Yeah, there's 2 outs. You got a runner on. So get this next guy. So the next guy gets a hit. So then you're in a position where then Christian Moore gets hurt. So you come out to check on him. But you're in a position where he's allowed 2 base runners, and he's at 100 pitches. I think I'm with him in polling Kikuchi at that moment because it made sense, and it would have completely made sense if Zeferjahn did his job. Now, the swing to the other side is that it was Sean Murphy, right? And he had dominated Sean Murphy. So, is there a thought? Let him go one more because he's done really well against Murphy. Perhaps if Wash is in there, Wash is like, nah, go get him, bro. Take him down, right? But I think Ray Montgomery had a moment where he's like, 2 base runners, 2 outs. I don't want him to lose this game. I don't want it to fall apart. Sean Murphy is a dangerous hitter. Let's get a fresh arm in here and let's throw some fastballs and let's get him out. Unfortunately, they don't do that, right? And then everything kind of falls apart right after that 3-run home run.
It fell apart, and you kind of have to think about who's got more home run risk there. Is it Kikuchi or is it Zeferjahn? Well, Zeferjahn's given up his share of home runs, like you mentioned, 7th one to Sean Murphy, but it got worse. He followed that with a single and 2 walks to load the bases, and then he let Matt Olson hit a grand slam. And then so Zeferjahn allowed 6 consecutive batters to reach, all with 2 outs. 5 of those runs were charged to Zeferjahn in that inning.
Now, I would, when talk about decision-making, where I would disagree with Ray Montgomery is after Zeferjahn loaded the bases, I'm yanking him. Yeah. I'm having Reed Detmers warm up as soon as Zeferjahn gets in trouble because you've got Matt Olson who has owned this team. And so if you're Mr. Analytics, Ray Montgomery, then just open up that cute little book you got there or that iPad you got there. And what you're going to find is Matt Olson is Barry Bonds against the Angels. And so the fact that you didn't have Reed Detmers ready, the fact that you didn't have another, maybe even Brock Burke, right? Like the fact you didn't have somebody ready in that moment,
a lefty,
is silly. I think you need to have somebody ready, and you had a lot of opportunity because you had a lot of downtime when you brought Zeferjahn in, gives up the home run. I'm already having Reed Detmers or somebody else warm up, and then after the single and then a walk, the single came quickly, but the walks, they didn't come quickly. And so you had enough time to delay, and then make a change. But the fact that he just let Zeferjahn go right back out there to face Matt Olson, he threw 2 pitches to Matt Olson. One was out of the zone, a cutter, and then he threw an off-speed pitch in the zone, and Olson crushed it and does what he does against the Angels and has historically done against the Angels.
Yeah, all the way back to his A's days. Good grief. That corner of Angels Stadium, the right field corner, has a hole burned in it from Matt Olson, all of his home runs over there. Third takeaway, Mike, Jo Adell, my guy, has a 13-game hitting streak. He extended the streak in the top of the first. Shonwell walked, Taylor Ward singled, Adell hit a 2-run single with 2 outs. The 13-game hit streak is tied with Zach Neto for the longest hitting streak on the Angels this season. Brandon Lau, 18 games, and Bryce Terang, 14 games, have longer active streaks in the majors. Brandon Lau, man, that guy just why his name always, you never think about him, and then his name comes up with stuff like this, like, he's on a 28-game hitting streak. I know it's 18 now, but sure enough, it'll be there in like 10 days. So 2 of their 4 hits happened in this inning. And once again, the month of Joan has turned into the month of July, which I'm happy to see. Final takeaway here was Christian Moore left the game after diving for a ball up the middle. Really landed awkwardly on his glove hand, not his throwing hand, but you wonder how that's going to affect his swing. You wonder if this is going to keep him out. He left the game with left thumb irritation, the official term that we know of so far as of this recording. But that just felt like the beginning of the end when he was hurt. And then all of a sudden, Kikuchi's out. Zeferjahn gives up all those hits. Mike, we got a garbage time home run from Jorge Soler in the 9th inning, but
his 200th of his career. Congratulations.
Yeah, so maybe that could be the ceiling that gets broken and he can stop stinking it up. I know that he's been hurt, but now that he's back, it's good. Maybe we'll get the Soler that we've expected instead of this hurt Soler, right?
The one thing that I get really frustrated with in games like this is that the Angels, when they just go down by a bunch late in the game, it just feels like their whole approach just changes. Suddenly they're not patient, and they walked a few times last night. Christian Moore had 2 walks last night, and so it just felt like all of their ability to have a very strategic and good approach at the plate just goes out the window. Like they're all trying to get the 6-7 runs back in one swing, which you can't do. You got to put it together, right? And so that's what's so frustrating about games like this is I know that this was in the bottom of the 6th inning. They had 3 more innings to do something, and it just felt like we're going to get it back here. I'm going to swing and hit the home run here. And Soler's home run is great, but it doesn't do anything for this team. Like you need to have hit after hit after hit. And so that's what's frustrating for me as an Angel fan watching this team late in the game when they're down by a lot is they just suddenly forget how to approach the hitter or approach the pitcher on the mound.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Coming up, what was behind Jo Adell's incredible June? We'll share what that was and the adjustments that he made, and we'll talk about that in our third segment. We'll talk about that in just a minute.
Gametime is the easiest way to grab last-minute tickets without all of the stress. They're going to help save some money on tickets. Then you can get that big drink or get that big hot dog or get that big whatever it might be. Helmet nachos when you go to the game because Gametime save you some money, and they make it really fast and really simple. Prices on the app, they drop before, or like right before you get to the first pitch. And so there's some incredible last minute deals, and they have the lowest price guarantee on the Gametime app. It's the official ticketing partner of Locked On MLB. So let them help you out the next time that you go to a game. You can download the Gametime app, create an account, and use our promo code Locked On MLB for $20 off your first purchase. Again, create an account, use our promo code Locked On MLB for $20 off your first purchase. Download the Gametime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed.
This is the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Mike, on Tuesday night against the Braves, Trout hit a 1-out double to left field, and he kind of hustled as he ran to second base. And we all thought that was kind of a good sign because he's been very cautious with that bruised knee. It was his first double since May 31st. Now, Ray Montgomery said that watching Trout get that hit and then hustle for a double was a good sign. He said that Trout told him it felt good to fire on all cylinders. He sniffed it right out of the box, so we knew it was coming. On the double and how it affected his knee, Trout said it felt all right to run that way, but he also acknowledged that his knee still gets achy. He said, I've been dealing with it since I got back, just trying to maintain it. Where do we draw the line on, this is a sports injury versus, bro, you're 33. Your knees are going to start to suck, right, Mike?
Right. And that really brings up a really important question. So when is Trout, or if Trout, will he return to the outfield? Montgomery said that they're exercising caution, but Trout really wants to get back out there. He said that Trout has become a little bit more accepting of the DH role, but it's really hard for him because Mike loves being out in the field. And when he is doing what he's done for, as long as he's done, and then not being able to go back out there, that can be really frustrating. And it can be tough for Mike mentally because he's not out on the field engaged. He's sitting on the bench. Now, to add to this, Jeff Fletcher of the OC Register recently took some questions on Twitter, and he had one follower ask, what's really going on with Trout's knee, and why can't he play the outfield anymore? And Jeff responded with this answer. He said, Trout tried to test the knee to get back in the outfield, didn't feel 100%, so he stopped. And he said that the problem isn't running the bases, that he can be conservative when he's running the bases. He just can't be conservative in the outfield because you got to chase down those balls, right? And so the game is going to dictate when he needs to go hard, whether he's running into the gap or he's making a dive. According to Jeff, it looks like Trout and the Angels just decided that as long as they can have his bat back in the lineup, they're not going to take any chances with him in the outfield until he feels 100% ready. Although no one has said that he's going to be the DH exclusively, according to Jeff Fletcher. He said that it wouldn't surprise him if that was the case for the rest of the season. So, John, you brought up a really great point. Like, when is this just a conversation like, hey, bro, this probably isn't just the fact that you hurt yourself. You're just getting older and you've got a lot of wear and tear on those knees. So what do you do with Mike Trout? Do you keep teetering and tottering, or do you make a decision and say, this is what we're doing for the rest of the season?
Yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with having him be the DH for the rest of the season. And every now and then when you need to give Soler a turn through the DH, look, you need competent outfielders before you take Soler out of right field. And I mean competent outfielders, not saying that he's competent, but what I am saying is that you've got to have his bat in there somewhere. And as long as Trout is taking the DH spot, you've got to put Soler somewhere, right? I just can't believe that, he played all those innings at Truist Park last year, and we've seen him get 2 plays that he just can't make out in right field, because that's all he did for the Braves. He played the outfield the rest of the season last year for the Braves when he got traded from the Giants. So all of that to say, look, Gustavo Campero's great, but his bat is not Soler. I do like the contact. I do like the speed, but you also, you added Soler because you wanted some power, right? And that's the goal here. Now, there's plenty of power to go around this team. I get that. But I think at this point, you just got to have Trout DH maybe until the end of the year, Mike. And then you can have conversations of, hey, maybe you move to left field next year or somewhere where it's a little bit easier, right? Because, Taylor Ward, not the greatest outfielder. He gets a lot of criticism for looking nonchalant out there. And times he does look nonchalant, right? But we've also had Justin Upton out there. We've had, Josh Hamilton when he wasn't great out there. And so all of that to say, that's traditionally where your least great outfielder is going to go, but also because there's not as much ground in that direction, especially at Angel Stadium. It's really kind of small confines over there in that tight corner by the bullpen. So all of that to say, I think that Trout could ride out the rest of this year at DH, then have a conversation over the offseason of maybe you take the Bryce Harper route where you play a little first base, right? Harper can do it. And, he had to do it because his arm from the outfield wasn't working anymore because he hurt it. Didn't he have like Tommy John or something like that? Yeah. Yeah. It was almost like a pitching injury that you typically see with pitchers. I don't know if it's necessarily Tommy John, but it was something that kept him from being able to throw from right field. So I think if Trout has to make that decision, I think that it needs to come at the end of the year. Mike, it's that point of his career where he's got to be the DH. Big Papi did it. Albert did it for a long time, right? So, and now you can DH at every stadium across every game. So there's no reason not to just have him be the primary DH when you need him to. And again, I think that it's better, like Jeff said, the Angels decided it's better to have his bat in the lineup than to try to force the issue. I think I said it a few weeks ago. I said, I think we're at that point, Mike, where this is the point of Trout's career where he DHs full time. Batting fifth was when I said this, when he was batting fifth because he was doing really well there. It's like, yeah, maybe this is the point in time where, this is where Trout's at in his career. And that's okay because he's still Mike Trout and he's still a productive player when he's in that lineup. So I think they have to do everything they can to keep him in there. Where does Mike need to be in this lineup, in your opinion?
Yeah, that's an interesting question because he was batting fifth and he was doing really well. Obviously, batting third is his prime spot, and you want a great hitter like Mike Trout to get all of the at bats. And it's the third hitter and the fifth hitter that get a lot of the at bats over the course of the season. And so I don't mind having him at third. I do think that you have to look at where the lineup is currently. If you move him down to fifth, then what does that mean for the lineup? I don't think having Taylor Ward at third.
There's no number 3 hitter on this team.
Yes.
Unless maybe you move Neto to 3, but then you don't have Neto's not really a true leadoff guy either, but
Sure.
That's what's missing. I brought up Xavier Woods last week because this team doesn't have a true leadoff guy.
Yeah.
And so, and they put Rengifo up there sometimes. I get that. But if you move Neto out of 1, you drop the sort of leadoff guy to 3. I feel like that's all you can really do, right?
Yeah, and the strength of this lineup has been the 1-2. It has been Neto and Shawnuel, and you don't want to mess with that, right? Unless you put somebody who's riding hot right now, like a Jo Adell at number 3, and we're going to talk about him in the next segment. He's cut down on strikeouts and all of those things, and so that could be something that you could ride for the time being. I just think that if you do put move some things around, then you do have a Ward, Trout, and Soler problem in the middle of the lineup because those guys, that's a lot of swings and misses right there, right? And so maybe Rengifo moves up to the top and you can move Neto down to 3. There's a lot of pieces to that. So I can't see the Angels doing anything to really upset the lineup because I think their OPS shows that they're pretty strong offensively. I know that last night they only got those 2 runs, but the truth is that I think they need to maybe reevaluate where they have Mike Trout in this lineup and what he can bring to this lineup now that he's not in the outfield, because I do think that helps him to stay focused. I think it helps him to stay focused at the plate because he's engaged in the game for both the top and the bottom of the inning. So a lot of questions about Trout. I don't anticipate us seeing him. I think you're right. I don't think he's going to go back into the outfield for the rest of the year unless it's an emergency situation. And even if it's that, they might even put like a Campero in there or move somebody out there that can take it so that Trout doesn't have to run around on that bad knee.
Yeah. Bring up Paris, bring up Lugo, give those guys full-time reps. Everybody who wants them on this team right now, I just want to tell you, they're not there because they won't get full-time reps right now.
Yeah.
They will be given the Gustavo Campero treatment. So until there's an opening where they can do that, they're going to be in the minor leagues. So if there happens to be one here in the future, that would be a route that they can go. Mike, final point I want to make here. In the month of June, a full month for Mike Trout since he came back, 26 games, 24 starts, 271 average. Listen to this, a 422 on base percentage.
Dang.
And a 412 slugging. Now, remember, the way you feel about a 300 batting average is the way you should feel about a 400 on base percentage. And Mike Trout is 422. So that needs to be in the equation here as well. Mm-hmm. Like, where is he most effective? Because he's taking a lot of walks. He's doing a lot of that.
John, with just those numbers, what if you switched Shawnuel and Trout, right? Like Shawnuel's hitting 2 and 3. And I get it. Like, you don't want to mess with the top 2, but if you're going to move some pieces around, Trout's walking a lot, and then Shawnuel is slapping the ball everywhere.
Yeah.
Maybe that's an option, right? And then you're not having a strikeout guy. You're doing Neto, Trout, Shawnuel, Ward, Adell, Soler, right? Ohapi. I think that could be a better approach. Maybe I'd love to see something like that because Trout, again, is getting on base, and that on base percentage is proof. Although those are great numbers for a number 3 hitter too. So, here I am just talking in circles.
But I'm just saying, like, consider that when you think about how this lineup should be. Like, Trout's on base percentage is huge because he walks all the time. And sometimes to our frustration where it's like, bro, swing the bat. We need you to swing the bat. But sometimes you just got to take the walk. He always works the full count. Mm-hmm. He always comes back from like 0-2, right? And he works long at bats. He makes them see a lot of pitches. So I don't think that there's anything wrong with considering Trout in another spot in the lineup.
If you're looking to order plumbing, HVAC, or electrical supplies, you can go to supplyhouse.com. They're the reliable way to order products online. Their easy-to-use website has helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. They have a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from 400-plus top brands. You're going to find exactly what you need delivered fast from coast to coast. And if you need help with an order, Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service, so you're always going to get a real person. And if you're a trade pro, they have a free Trademaster program that offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Thousands of skilled professionals are taking advantage of this. Now it's your turn, and you can at supplyhouse.com/TM. And if you're ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies, you can do that in a few clicks at supplyhouse.com. Use the promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order. Again, that's supplyhouse.com.
Mike, Miguel,
Mm-hmm.
it was about a month ago that Jo Adell seemed like he was putting some stuff together. And you said, talk to me in a week.
Mm-hmm.
And so I called you out on that. And you said, I'm pretty sure I said, talk to me in 2 weeks. Well, looking at the date here, July 3rd, Independence Day tomorrow. I think it's been about a month since we've had that conversation. So is there anything you want to say?
John, does my first apology, is that not enough? Does that not go? I already apologized on this show.
You know what? You're my big brother. I'm going to rub it in as much as I need to.
As you should.
Yeah. There you go.
John, you've been a big Jo Adell supporter, and you're cashing those checks right now. I love that. I love that social media sees that as well. But why is he so good right now? Well, it has to do with his timing at the plate. Adell has had 3 different ways to time pitches in the last year and a half. He had the big leg kick, the toe tap, and the small left leg kick. And so before July 30th, 2024, Adell decided that the leg kick that he'd used for his entire career just wasn't working. So he scrapped it and he moved to his toe tap. Now, with the big leg kick, John, Adell was slashing 206. He had a 261 on base and a 372 slugging for a 633 OPS. And that was in 274 games. Now, since then, he went to the toe tap. And in 79 games, he improved to 213 batting average, 282 on base, and a 398 slugging for a 680 OPS. But about 3 weeks ago, Adell began to use what he calls a more controlled version of the kick that he was using before. He calls it more of a lift. He said, the way I was lifting my leg a year ago versus the way that I do it now are totally different things, 2 totally different things. This is more of a lift than a giant leg kick. At points last year, I would do like a full leg kick where I was kicking it up and then just trying to find the ground. Now it's just kind of a lift. It's more under control. And he said that adjustment has changed his timing at the plate. John, here's the numbers because he went from the toe tap to the small controlled leg lift. He's slashing 315, 397 on base, and a 676 slugging percentage with a 1.037 OPS, and that's in 32 games.
Oh, 1.073. I just wanted to make that correction there. You got your numbers mixed up again. That's okay. But all of that to say, there was a great segment on MLB Network where they examined Jo Adell's different versions of his kick and his lift and his toe tap. Mike, something I never picked up on before was like a double clutch in his leg kick, in the sense that right here where he said, I was lifting my leg, the way I was lifting my leg a year ago, I was kicking it up and trying to find the ground. That's exactly what it looks like. It's a double clutch, sort of like, where'd the ground go? Where'd the floor go? And you could see his foot moving around. And it just threw off his timing completely. Another thing they mentioned on that broadcast was how crouched he is now. Yeah. He's not standing so upright. And it allows him to see the ball better to where he's not chasing. And that kind of leads into the next point. The thing that's changed for him is not only that leg lift, but the fact that he's got to be strategic on the mound. He's going up, looking for something to hit hard, take a hack at the first thing he sees that he can drive. He's hitting 417 with a 1.767 OPS when he puts the first pitch in play. He swung at 56% of first pitches in the zone in April. That number went up to 66 in May and 63 in June. He said waiting around trying to work the count is something I can do. But for me personally, if I get a pitch that's good enough, I'm trying to get out of the at-bat, with a good swing. This adjustment and approach has helped Adell not strike out as much as he once was. Last year, he struck out 28% of the time. This year, he's dropped that K rate by 4 points to 24%. Mike, the crouching, the squat that he does up at the dish allows him to see those down and away pitches so much better. And even if he goes fishing for one, he can actually reach out and foul it off. And that's been huge. I think it was Eno Saris of Rates and Barrels, the Athletic podcast, who mentioned like that Jo Adell could be kind of a Chris Davis type, not the A's Chris Davis, but the Orioles Chris Davis, in the sense that he had really good plate discipline at one point, and he made the pitchers throw to him in the zone. Well, with Jo Adell's plate discipline improving, that's hard to say that 3 times fast. With his discipline improving, he's making pitchers throw to him. And when they do throw to him, he's taking hacks on that first pitch. So everything is adding up to make sense at the plate. The timing mechanism, which is what I mentioned before. We got a Fan Mail Friday question about that. Like, how has he been so good? And I said, it's all been timing. It's all been, he was able to hit the off-speed stuff earlier in the season, and now he's hitting the fastball. So he's able to hit almost everything. And to add in his change at the plate, the stance is significant. And then his pitch selection has vastly improved. Again, that down and away pitch that used to eat him up all throughout his career, he's not going after that as much. So, Mike, do you think that this is something to do with Joe finally getting all the at-bats that he needs? Because remember, up until last year, he never had a full season's worth of plate appearances. Then last year, he surpassed that mark. So, it had been 3-4 years of him going up and down from the majors to the minors, never having a full season's worth of plate appearances at the major league level. Do you think time and at-bats at the major league level has helped him?
I think you have to have a measuring stick, and Joe never had a measuring stick. And I think you also have to have enough at-bats to go, yeah, that doesn't work.
Yeah.
What does work for me? And that's what it sounds like, what he's saying here. And this was an article from Jeff Fletcher, and I loved it because he's saying, like, I had time to go, I got this big giant leg kick, and then I knew what I was doing. That's another piece that I loved, by the way, that he recognized that he was trying to find the ground and that it wasn't really helping. He was more like an ostrich. Like he was just kind of standing there, a flamingo standing there, right? Like, and with one leg trying to figure where the ground was, and then moving to, more of the toe tap. And that was okay. And then now he's like, I've got this little bit of a leg lift where I'm measured, and I'm kind of, and that probably is why he's crouching down. John, you just need time to figure that stuff out. And Joe did have some time in the minor leagues, but in the minor leagues, it was, I got to get back to the major leagues. And so I got to really prove myself here. So who knows what mechanics he was really working on in the minor leagues. And this might be just a reflection of what the Angels lack in the minor leagues, that they weren't able to do that. But it sounds like Joe and Johnny Washington have really figured out what's going to help him be successful as he moves forward.
I'm glad you brought up Johnny Washington, because the point of him figuring this out with Jo Adell, and even, let me start over. The fact is, Johnny Washington last year sat down with Sam Blum when he first got hired. I guess it was like November of 2023, right? And he said, what kind of approach are you going to have? And that was a good question from Sam, because Marcus Timms had an approach. It was attack, attack, attack. It was swing at the first pitch often, more often than not. With Johnny Washington, he said, I don't know if I'm going to go that route because, each guy's different. So he was very ambiguous. And we even said, like, I don't know if that's interesting. I don't know if that's so great. Mike, Zach Neto's changes last year, Jo Adell's changes this year. Obviously, Johnny Washington is helping these guys. But the problem that we've had with him was the one-size-fits-all approach at the plate that feels like they've gone away from. And it's that idea that you got to end the at-bat when you should end the at-bat. That's what we took issue with. It was like, Johnny, go back to what you were doing before. Because even this past offseason, we had an episode of, did he help the hitting? And our conclusion was, yeah, he helped some guys out there. He helped them improve. He helped them fix some things. But at the same time, yes, it's also possible that a blanket approach is not good for everybody. Yeah, some guys can do the end the at bat when you need to, but then you also need somebody like Shonowell to work a count or hit something the other way, right? Remember, he said, like, I stopped trying to do that approach and I started changing things around, and that's what's been working for Nolan Shonowell. So again, everybody's different. The blanket statements aren't helpful, but clearly Johnny Washington as a hitting coach has helped people improve. And that's the distinction that I would like to make here.
Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Now, for your next listen, check out Locked On MLB Game Night. You can find it on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hey, be sure you give us a follow on Twitter at Locked On Angels and connect with Mike and I on Twitter and Instagram at Super Halo Bros. Mike, what do we have on deck for Friday's show?
We talked about it on Wednesday. Kenley spoke about it yesterday. What is it? We'll tell you tomorrow on Locked On Angels.
All right, looking forward to that conversation. Until then, my name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
Thanks for being here, everybody, and we'll see you back here on Friday. Blue Jays are tied for first with the Yankees, and we got to face them next. So
we're going to play up.
Yeah, exactly.